Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. In a packed Manhattan courtroom, the walls finally started to crack around one of hip-hop's most powerful men. Not because of a celebrity statement or another leaked video, but because of a man the public barely knew until now. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, has been speaking out for years, and nobody listened. Now, the courts are. Deal's long-ignored warnings have become undeniable as shocking footage and witness testimonies surface, matching his stories with eerie precision. On day 7 of the trial, sources inside the courtroom say jurors went pale as one of Deal's claims was confirmed on video. Diddy's hands trembled. He looked broken. What happens when the man who once protected you turns into the one who tears your empire down? This isn't just testimony. It's the moment Diddy's defense may have truly collapsed. Let's break down how Gene Deal's receipts just changed everything. Gene Deal has been talking for years, but almost no one in the public took him seriously. A former bodyguard to Sean Diddy Combs during the peak of Bad Boy Records, Deal spent years by Diddy's side, witnessing both the public persona and the private chaos. In countless interviews and podcasts, Gene described a darker world behind Diddy's glamour: violent outbursts, manipulation, surveillance, and even sinister parties with celebrities and underage guests. Until recently, many chalked it up to bitterness or fame chasing. But now, in the middle of Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial, his claims aren't just resurfacing. They're being confirmed in court. Deal said Diddy ran his empire more like a military operation than a music label. Staff members were assigned roles, secrets were locked down, and privacy was an illusion. He claims Diddy controlled everyone, from assistants to artists, through fear, loyalty, or drugs. In earlier years, Deal claimed he witnessed moments of physical abuse between Diddy and Kim Porter, the late mother of several of Diddy's children. "I saw things I'll never forget," Deal once said, "and I kept my mouth shut for too long." What's critical now is that the details of his stories, especially about parties and alleged assaults, are lining up with new testimony in court. Witnesses are describing eerily similar scenes: confiscated phones, private rooms, intoxicated guests, and coercion. When police officer Israel Flores testified that Cassie had a black eye and was trying to escape Diddy in 2016, just like Deal described years ago, the courtroom changed. For the first time, it wasn't just allegation, it was patterns. The prosecution is building a case that this wasn't a man who lost control one time. It's a man who built a system to stay in control all the time. And Gene Deal was there to see it happen. What's now terrifyingly clear is that his stories weren't just plausible. They may have been the truth all along. Most celebrity scandals crumble because of a smoking gun, but this one, it might collapse because of a man with no fame and no reason to lie. Gene Deal wasn't just a bystander. He was Diddy's right hand for years. And when he speaks, it's not from rumor, it's from personal experience. According to new legal analysts covering the case, the jury may have no choice but to take his testimony seriously, because his accounts aren't just shocking, they're consistent. In a recent interview, Deal said something that struck people as chilling. "You protect a man's body for years, but you can't protect his soul." He admitted to feeling complicit in the silence that allowed Diddy's behavior to go unchecked. And when he described the infamous freak-offs, private gatherings where Diddy allegedly forced women and men into sexual acts while recording the entire event, he claimed it wasn't just about pleasure. It was about leverage. Deal said, "The camera was always rolling, always. If you ever turned on Diddy, he had the footage to destroy you." These claims now echo Cassie Ventura's allegations, Lil Rod's federal lawsuit, and statements from other accusers, some of which reference NDAs, secret recordings, and threats. That makes Deal's statements harder to dismiss. Even more disturbing, Deal suggests Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, may have enabled some of his son's darker tendencies. According to Gene, the household didn't discourage control, it taught it. He described moments when Janice allegedly ran a modeling agency that was actually a cover for a brothel serving high-end clients. The court hasn't confirmed those claims, but the prosecution seems to be threading a larger narrative that Diddy's behavior wasn't accidental. It was inherited, refined, and enforced. During the latest trial session, a courtroom observer said several jurors visibly reacted when one witness's account mirrored Gene's older interviews, and when one of Deal's previously denied stories was referenced in court documents, Diddy reportedly muttered under his breath and asked to be excused, saying he was nervous. It was the first visible crack in his otherwise stone-faced demeanor. If Gene Deal takes the stand, and prosecution insiders say it's highly likely, he won't just be testifying as a witness. He'll be confirming the world Diddy built with someone finally brave enough to expose it. As Diddy's lawyers scramble to control the courtroom narrative, one thing is becoming painfully obvious. Their strategy wasn't built to handle someone like Gene Deal. They expected denials. They expected emotional exes. They didn't expect a stoic ex-bodyguard with nothing to lose and a memory that matches the evidence. Deal has publicly claimed that he warned Diddy years ago to clean up, especially after Cassie Ventura ended their relationship and began threatening legal action. He said he watched Diddy ignore his own lawyers, dismiss settlements, and escalate tension with those around him. That same pattern is now unfolding in real time. Prosecutors revealed that Diddy rejected multiple plea offers earlier this year. Instead of cutting a deal that could spare him decades behind bars, he allegedly insisted on fighting it all the way. Why? According to Deal, Diddy believes in his untouchability. But in court, that illusion is shattering. On day 6 of the trial, sources say Diddy looked pale, thinner than usual, and visibly shaken. His hand trembled during cross-examinations, and at one point, he even asked the judge for a break, saying, "Excuse me, I'm a little nervous." This is a man who once called himself a savage, who partied with presidents and billionaires, now asking for mercy as the walls close in. Deal's perspective is also proving useful in exposing what prosecutors call enterprise-level crimes. In his words, this wasn't a man spiraling out. This was a man orchestrating events with drug suppliers, event planners, NDAs, and security all involved. And now, the court is finally framing these stories not as conspiracy, but as criminal infrastructure. It doesn't stop there. Deal also said he witnessed Diddy using his power to silence employees, buy off victims, and eliminate threats, sometimes through bribes, other times through intimidation. That's exactly the kind of systemic behavior needed to prove racketeering, the kind that brings federal sentences. As the court proceeds, the defense is racing to discredit Deal, but they're running out of time. Because every day he isn't called, more evidence seems to align with his words. Whether he takes the stand or not, Gene Deal has already reshaped this trial. And for Diddy, that might be the most dangerous thing of all. Gene Deal's accounts don't just bolster the prosecution's evidence, they reshape how the public and the jury are understanding the abuse allegations. For years, stories of Diddy's alleged violent outbursts and manipulative behavior were largely confined to gossip blogs or anonymous tips. But now, with Deal detailing specific incidents that align with sworn testimony and police reports, those stories have evolved into something the jury can no longer ignore. In interviews going back nearly a decade, Deal described an incident in which Kim Porter, Diddy's former partner and the mother of 3 of his children, had to physically defend herself from Diddy by slashing his wrist with a broken object after a violent argument. At the time, people dismissed Deal's story as exaggerated. But during the trial, new testimony confirmed that Porter had been seen at Cedars-Sinai Hospital shortly after an undisclosed domestic dispute. Though she never spoke out publicly, the alignment of Deal's timeline with that ER report has given his version of events new weight. Deal also described, with striking clarity, the environment surrounding the now infamous freak-offs, the alleged drug-fueled sex parties at Diddy's mansion. According to Deal, these events weren't spontaneous. They were choreographed. Security was told to confiscate phones, the lighting was set to specific tones, gowns, and guests were instructed on where to go and what to wear. This lines up almost exactly with what Cassie Ventura and other women have testified to, including claims that they were invited to participate in sex acts they never fully agreed to. Diddy allegedly referred to the events as experiences and was known to watch recordings of them after the fact, something Deal says he personally witnessed. Cassie herself admitted that during the early years of her relationship with Diddy, she was complicit, scheduling some of the parties, arranging for other women, and at times supplying drugs. But she explained this as part of the psychological control she was under, and again, Deal's interviews back this up. They didn't even know they were being abused. He, Diddy, made them feel like they owed him. This recontextualization of abuse, from impulsive anger to a calculated system of psychological domination, is perhaps the most damaging thing Deal's testimony does. It shows Diddy wasn't simply a man who snapped. He was a man who allegedly engineered environments where people felt too powerless or too high to say no. And in court, that's not just immoral, it's criminal. If the courtroom was the outer stage, Deal had access to the backstage. He was the muscle behind the bad boy empire, tasked with ensuring Diddy's safety. But what he saw behind those velvet ropes has now become damning testimony. In numerous podcasts, Deal painted a picture of Bad Boy not as a music label, but as a lifestyle cult, where loyalty was enforced through intimidation and shame, and where indulgence in drugs, sex, and violence wasn't just accepted, it was required. Deal described the headquarters as being outfitted like a command center. Surveillance systems weren't just for fans or intruders, they were inward-facing, used to monitor employees, partners, and even romantic relationships. Everybody was watching everybody, Deal said in a 2022 interview. Nobody knew who the camera was really on. This revelation gains weight, considering prosecutors have now submitted photos and metadata from surveillance cameras inside one of Diddy's New York properties, images that appear to capture several guests being escorted into private rooms. But perhaps the most disturbing part of Deal's recollections involves what he calls grooming protocol. According to him, new hires or collaborators, particularly women, were often put through a process of exposure where they would be tested to see how far they would go. They'd fly them out, get them high, and then see what they'd do on camera, he claimed. Those who resisted were quickly cut off. Those who complied became regulars at parties, and, in some cases, Diddy's romantic partners. Deal's proximity also allowed him to see how potential threats were neutralized. One woman, according to Deal, allegedly tried to expose a drug incident involving a young artist. The next week, she was on a flight to Paris with a non-disclosure agreement and a cash envelope. It's a well-oiled machine, Deal said. It's not chaos, it's structure disguised as chaos. Legal experts say this is a critical distinction for the prosecution, painting the alleged crimes as part of an orchestrated enterprise rather than random, reckless behavior. And Deal's testimony, should he take the stand, could be the thread that ties decades of accusations together. He knows where the cameras were. He knows when the security guards were told to look away, and he knows how the empire kept itself insulated while trafficking in secrets and silence. Diddy has always been about image. The fur coats, the champagne, the private jets, the all-white Hamptons parties. He branded himself not just as a music mogul, but as a symbol of control. But in court, that persona is disintegrating, and no one has highlighted that unraveling better than Gene Deal. On the 6th day of trial, courtroom reporters noted a dramatic shift in Diddy's appearance. Gone was the larger-than-life aura. He looked gaunt, pale, exhausted. A journalist from The Breakfast Club remarked, "It's like he aged 5 years in 5 days." Deal had commented in the past that Diddy's worst fear wasn't jail, it was irrelevance. He could handle prison, but he couldn't handle not being seen, Deal said. And now, here he is, center stage in a trial where every detail undermines the image he spent decades building. The prosecution's strategy has focused not just on presenting evidence, but on dismantling the myth. Witness after witness is being used to chip away at Diddy's credibility, painting him as paranoid, controlling, and erratic. Former staff describe him requiring absolute control over every detail, from the playlist at a party to the drug dosage guests were allegedly given. He didn't just host the parties, one witness said. He orchestrated every minute of them. This contrasts sharply with Diddy's defense, which has tried to paint him as a passionate, if misunderstood, artist. But the image isn't holding up. After one particularly damning piece of audio evidence was played, allegedly showing Diddy ordering a woman into a private room, he visibly flinched. And when the judge asked if he needed a recess, Diddy reportedly declined, but kept looking at his legal team in panic. A few minutes later, he asked for a bathroom break and whispered, "I'm shaking." These reactions haven't gone unnoticed by the jury. Body language experts consulted by news outlets suggest that Diddy's physical breakdown, his fidgeting, his uncharacteristic silence, even his pale complexion, might be influencing jurors more than any single testimony. He no longer looks like a mogul fighting back. He looks like a man who knows the empire he built is collapsing in real time. For years, Diddy projected an aura of invincibility, but in the quiet, sterile walls of a federal courtroom, that aura has turned into vulnerability. And with Gene Deal's narrative echoing throughout the evidence, what was once considered bravado now reads as desperation. The jury sees it, the public sees it, and most importantly, Diddy sees it. As the prosecution's case grows stronger, Diddy's defense team is running out of room. Their strategy, which initially revolved around portraying Cassie Ventura and other accusers as opportunists or scorned ex-partners, is backfiring, especially in light of the testimonies now being backed by former insiders like Gene Deal. What was once framed as a personal grudge or an ex-lover's exaggeration is now being validated by a man who spent years inside Diddy's inner sanctum, and the defense team is visibly scrambling to keep up. In one of the more chaotic courtroom moments, the defense attempted to discredit Cassie by presenting text messages from 2009 showing flirtatious and explicit exchanges with Diddy. "You were enjoying the freak-offs," one defense attorney said. "You initiated some of them." Cassie didn't deny it. Instead, she doubled down on the emotional and psychological control she endured. "Yes, I participated," she said plainly, "because I believed I had to." The jury watched as she took accountability not just for what she experienced, but for what she enabled, and that level of candor may have made her even more credible in their eyes. When the defense attempted to bring up Cassie's romantic ties to Michael B. Jordan and Kid Cudi during her breaks from Diddy, the prosecution objected, and the judge seemed inclined to agree that it wasn't relevant to the core charges. The moment underscored just how desperate Diddy's legal team had become. They weren't building a solid defense. They were trying to muddy the waters with tabloid drama. And then there's the growing scrutiny around Diddy's decisions outside the courtroom. Former attorney Benjamin Braffman reportedly advised Diddy to settle with Cassie in 2023 for $10 million. Diddy instead paid $30 million. Legal experts now speculate that this overpayment was a sign of panic, a man trying to quiet a storm before it became a hurricane. Braffman stepped down shortly after. What's more, multiple legal insiders believe Diddy's current team is fractured, with sources saying there are disagreements over whether to pursue a plea deal or keep fighting. According to Gene Deal, Diddy has repeatedly ignored advice to settle or cooperate with the federal investigation. In a now widely shared interview, Deal said plainly, he thinks he's smarter than the feds. He's not. The courtroom is watching this unravel. The jury is watching a man who once projected absolute control now make desperate gambles in real time. And with Deal's insights providing context for these decisions, the defense's image of Diddy as a misunderstood genius is looking more and more like a delusion. One of the most ominous undercurrents of this trial is the growing list of names floating around behind the scenes: associates, friends, collaborators, who may soon be called to testify. Some are high-profile celebrities, others are former employees with inside access to Diddy's world. But what they all have in common is this: they were close enough to know what really happened, and now the prosecution is reportedly preparing to bring at least a few of them into court. According to multiple court reporters, Gene Deal's insights have opened up new pathways for prosecutors. He's named names, people he saw at the freak-off parties, artists he witnessed being groomed, security staff who looked the other way. None of this is new to people who have followed Deal's interviews over the years, but now that federal prosecutors are combing through his claims, what once sounded like conspiracy is becoming a blueprint for indictment. Sources close to the trial say that subpoenas have already been drafted for several former Bad Boy employees. There's speculation that ex-members of Danity Kane may testify, particularly Dawn Richard and Aubrey O'Day, both of whom have publicly accused Diddy of abuse or toxic manipulation. If either of them takes the stand, it would devastate the defense's narrative that Cassie was a lone, jilted lover. Then there's the matter of Diddy's sons, Christian and Justin Combs. Christian was allegedly involved in an incident on a yacht that resulted in a 2024 sexual assault lawsuit. Justin was detained during the September 2024 raid on Diddy's mansion. While no formal charges have been brought against them, the mere possibility of them being questioned under oath could be catastrophic for Diddy. Deal has hinted in past interviews that family involvement was deeper than anyone realized, suggesting that the line between Diddy's business empire and personal life was dangerously blurred. But the most alarming figure reportedly on the prosecution's radar is Janice Combs, Diddy's mother. Jean Deal has made explosive claims about her alleged role in facilitating or enabling certain behaviors, even going as far as claiming she once ran a brothel under the guise of a modeling agency. If prosecutors corroborate any part of that, it could expand the narrative of the trial from an individual case to a multi-generational enterprise, a true RICO structure. The question everyone's asking is this: if Deal's testimony is proving credible, how many others will step forward? And how far will the court go in exposing this alleged network? As one courtroom analyst put it, this is no longer about one man. This is about an entire system of power, fear, and silence. And that system is cracking. Sean Diddy Combs built one of the most influential music empires of the last 30 years. Bad Boy Records, Sean John, Ciroc Vodka, Revolt TV. His name was synonymous with opulence, power, and charisma. But today, that empire is crumbling, and the wreckage is on full display in a federal courtroom. For decades, Diddy appeared untouchable. Accusations came and went. Lawsuits were settled. People whispered, but never testified. And now we know why. According to over 60 lawsuits filed since 2023, silence was often bought, coerced, or scared into submission. That silence has finally been broken. Jean Deal's years of warnings, once dismissed as bitter ramblings, are now the backbone of a narrative that prosecutors are painting as a calculated, decades-long abuse of power. And Deal may not be the only one. More witnesses are expected. More documents are being unsealed. The freak-offs, the payments, the surveillance, all of it is now evidence. And still, Diddy's team clings to the argument that he's being targeted because of his fame. But that argument has lost its power. In the face of a former bodyguard turned whistleblower, surveillance footage showing physical abuse, and corroborating statements from alleged victims, celebrity no longer protects, it indicts. What's at stake is more than Diddy's freedom. It's the culture he represented, a world where power allowed you to control not just the narrative, but the people around you, the people you claimed to love, the people you paid, the people you silenced. Now, those people are speaking. The jury is listening. And Diddy, once the orchestrator of every scene, is no longer in control of the story. Whether or not he's convicted on every count, one thing is clear. The man once known as Puff Daddy, then P. Diddy, then Love, has lost the one thing he prized above all else: control of his image. And no rebrand can fix what's now unraveling, minute by minute, in a courtroom where his secrets are being laid bare by the people who used to protect them.